وحبيب إلهنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواحنا له الفداء. ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected scholars, my elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight is the 9th night of Muharram. We are one night away from the night of Ashur. The journey that we began is almost coming to an end now. The day of Ashur is just nearby. And this is a moment for us to introspect and see if we've been able to make the most of these 10 days. Because like we said, these 10 days are a preparation ground for us. They're a means for us to prepare ourselves for the dhuhr of our Imam, inshallah. In our discussions themed from Ashur to dhuhr, yesterday night we began the discussion of the dhuhr of our 12th Imam, and we spoke a little bit about this. Tonight, inshallah, we wish to continue this discussion in three main parts. Number one, we want to explore this idea of intidharul faraj. Intidharul faraj, which we hear often, we look at the hadith, it speaks about this concept, the awaiting and the preparation of our 12th Imam. We want to explore this idea. So this is the first part of our discussion. We'll be looking at intidharul faraj. What does this actually mean? The second part of our discussion we want to look at is this idea of Mahdawiyya, the idea of the 12th Imam, the idea of Akhirul Zaman, the end times. When we speak about this, what exactly does it mean? So this is the second part of our discussion, inshallah. And the final part of our discussion is we want to continue the discussion we began yesterday on how you and I can actively prepare ourselves for the 12th Imam and for his coming. So we'll be looking at one hadith, inshallah, and use that as a base to discuss and analyze how you and I can actively prepare ourselves for the coming of our 12th Imam. So with that, inshallah, we begin. The first part of our discussion, inshallah, we want to look at is what is the real meaning of intidharul faraj. Intidharul faraj, waiting for the relief, waiting for the faraj, waiting for Imam. What does this actually mean? Because when we look at the hadith, when we look at the hadith, we come across a very interesting hadith. The hadith that we all know describes intidharul faraj, where it says that afdalul a'mal intidharul faraj. The best of actions is intidharul faraj. Now, you and I can ask a question here, the best of actions. I thought, for example, namaz al-shab is really special. For example, giving khums, going to Hajj, all this tawab that's there, the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah. The hadith is telling us the best of actions is intidharul faraj. What does this mean? How can the best of actions be something like intidhar, waiting? Today I'm waiting for someone to come. How can I equate this with being the best of things that I can do? You see, when we look at this idea of intidharul faraj, this idea of waiting for the faraj and the relief, waiting for the dhuhr of our Imam, there's two types of waiting. And this should answer the question, inshallah, that we're asking. The question that we're asking is, how is it that intidharul faraj, an action like waiting and not doing anything, can be the best of actions? Well, the answer lies in this, that intidharul faraj is of two types. One is this type, which we just mentioned, waiting and not doing anything. This is a passive type of waiting, a type of waiting where I'm just hanging about, waiting for the Imam to come. Inshallah, he comes one day. Yes, I do dua for him. On Fridays, for example, I recite dua hujjah. But then that's as far as it goes. My connection with my Imam is at this superficial level. When I say intidarul faraj, this is one meaning of it. This is a passive waiting, a kind of waiting that I'm not really doing anything in this process. Of course, it's very obvious that when the hadith says intidarul faraj is the best of actions, afdalul a'mal intidarul faraj, the Masum is not speaking about this kind of waiting, a passive waiting where we're just lurking about waiting for something. It's like, for example, imagine tonight you have an extremely important guest coming to your house, extremely important person. A person who's waiting for this guest to come, it's not the case that he's not going to do anything about it. Say that whenever he comes, Allah, he'll get inside the house, and then we'll start thinking about it. Of course not. You check: do I have the right ingredients? Is the house clean? What food do we want to prepare? What do we want to serve this guest? How do we want to serve this guest? Where is the guest going to sit? These are things that you and I would naturally think about. If I have an important guest coming, I would prepare for this guest. A passive waiting is where I'm just waiting. Yallah, we'll see what will happen. When the guest shows up, we'll figure it out then. This is not the kind of waiting that is told to us when we're saying intidarul faraj. It's an active type of waiting. So what is this active intidarul faraj? What does it mean to be actively waiting for my Imam to come? Well, actively waiting for my Imam to come means that in my actions, in my life, in my personal life, it shows itself. In my dealings with people, it shows itself. In how I speak, in the words that I speak to people, in my actions, it shows that when a person looks at this person, he says that yes, this person is a true waiter of the Imam. This person is a muntadir of the Imam, as we say. So this is one side of it in my personal life, that I'm striving to be the best. I'm striving to do the things that the Imam wants from me, trying to make my Imam proud. But then sometimes, unfortunately, we only look at it in this bubble, that only in my personal life I'm a good person, which is good. But Islam, as we know it, is a social religion. Islam isn't a religion that you just practice within the four doors of your house or inside the masjid. When you come out of the masjid, then Islam doesn't have a part to play. This idea of secularism that's come about recently, that you want to practice your religion, fine, fair enough. The state will allow you to practice it in your mosque, in your temple, in your church, in your synagogues. Be a good practicing religious person in your worship places. But when you come into work, don't bring your religion over here. When you come into politics, for example, don't bring your religion over here. When you come into social spaces, don't bring your religion. This isn't what Islam teaches us. Islam is a way of life. If I'm a true Muslim, then I'm a Muslim inside the mosque and outside the mosque, be it in my workplace or in my house. A true Muslim is a Muslim who shows what Islam wants from him in every aspect of his life, right? If truly Islam is a way of life and it's a practice and a way of life, then it should show itself in all the different aspects of my life, not just limited and secluded to my worship places. So we know that Islam is a social religion as well. And that means that a true muntadir of the Imam, a person who is actively waiting for the faraj of the Imam, this person in his workplace as well shows this. This person, for example, goes out of his way to organize, attend classes, to have sessions with the youth, to try and spread and raise awareness about the Imam. Like we said, if you're actively waiting for somebody, you do things that show that you're waiting for that person. So this is a lesson that you and I need to keep in mind, that if we want to claim that we're truly muntadir of the Imam, then it isn't just enough to say it. It needs to show itself. Today we have social media platforms. How many of us try and spread this message of Islam through social media? These are all opportunities and avenues for us to spread the message of Islam, for us to spread that there is a Mahdi who is coming. And when better than a time like right now? When you look at the world and people are losing hope, people are starting to get frustrated by the man made systems, because these man made systems were never supposed to cater for insan. It's only the godly system that can cater for the insan. And so, at a time like this, it becomes extremely crucial for us to make sure that not only in our personal lives we're living a life that the Imam is proud of, but at a social level as well, we need to look at and think about this. I had a discussion with a few youth a few days ago, and we spoke about this, how we need to have think tanks within our communities, within our setups, to think about what we can actively do to prepare for our Imam. These are things that you and I need to look at, inshallah. Like we said, Islam wants us to be the best version of ourselves. Now, sometimes when you say this, Islam wants us to be the best version of ourselves, we think that, okay, so that means I need to, for example, have very long namaz, I need to be fasting, mustahab fasts. Yes, these things are good. But apart from this, even within our work, for example, person is an accountant. Islam wants you to be the best accountant out there. Do not limit yourself. You're a doctor, be the best doctor out there. You're an engineer, you're a constructor, you're this. Be the best in everything that you do. When you and I want to say that we're a muntadir of the Imam, when we're a follower of the Imam, a true Shia shows himself to be the best in everything that he does. This is then when you can make an impact. When you know, when people look at you and say, okay, this person, really I look up to him or her. Then you can start making an impact on the people around you. Then, for example, in my workplace, when everybody sees me to be the best in what I do, and when azan happens and I go and I pray my namaz, people say, okay, what are these values that this person is standing for? But if you and I are normal people, just passive people in the society, yes, we work and alhamdulillah we make an earning, but we're okay, then it's not going to make an impact. So this is something for us to keep in mind, inshallah. Sometimes this idea of passive waiting, we spoke about this, right? We said there's two types of intidar. There's one type of intidar where we say that we're passively waiting for the Imam to come. When the Imam comes, inshallah, we'll be ready for him. But right now, we'll be living the way that we want to live. This we said that we park it aside. And then there's an active waiting, which we spoke about. Sometimes when it comes to passive waiting, you find people raising this doubt. People have this question where they say that, when you look at the signs of the Akhir al-Zaman and you look at the hadith paint a very grim picture about how the end times will be. How, for example, sin will be so manifest, how people will be misguided, how dhulm and oppression will have spread. So these people, they come and they spread this doubt. They'll say that, look, if the hadith are telling us that the signs of the end times are such that the world is going to be such a dark place, then what's the point for us trying? We want the Imam to come, right? And the hadith are telling us that for the Imam to come, the world needs to get to a really bad place. So either we can do one of two things. One is we can contribute to this, inshallah, to speed on up the process of the Imam to come by making sure that the world is on its process of getting bad, it's getting worse. Or no, we can sit and just wait. We don't actively contribute to it, but we don't do anything to make a change. Because by us bringing a change, trying to make the world a better place, we're only delaying the coming of the Imam. The world needs to get worse before things can get better. This is an absurd idea. It's extremely absurd. But the reality is that there are people out there with these doubts. You find people with this question. This idea is like, for example, there's a person who's a patient in the hospital, a very sick person. And the doctors, the nurses, they come to the family members and they say that, look, this family member of yours is extremely critical. We need to wait for the specialist doctor to arrive. And until the specialist doctor hasn't arrived, there's nothing you can do. We just need to wait for it. Now, the family members say that, look, the specialist doctor is on his way. What if we do something to fasten and speed up the process of the specialist to come? How? Let's take off the oxygen. Let's, for example, make sure that we're not giving food to this patient, this family member of ours. Let's make sure he or she is in as much of an uncomfortable position and make it worse so that the doctor arrives faster and sooner. You'd laugh at a person like this, right? It doesn't make sense. In order to try and get the doctor to come sooner, you're willing to risk the health of your own family member, this patient, and risk death even. A true muntadir of the Imam doesn't think like this. That just because the hadith tell us that when the Imam comes, the times of the end times will be so bad, so I need to contribute to this to speed up the process, it's absurd. It doesn't make sense. You don't cause injustice and oppression just so that you can speed up the process of the coming of the Mahdi. It doesn't make sense. Yet, like I said, there are people out there with this kind of an ideology. So you and I need to be careful and make sure that we don't fall into this trap. These doubts that people come about and spread, they're absurd and they don't make sense at all. When I look around at the people who are in my life, you find that a person doesn't have expectations from random people. In my life, for example, I wouldn't expect if I come out right now on the road for random people to come and, for example, offer me a ride home or give me food or give me a place to stay. It doesn't make sense. But when it comes to my family members, when it comes to my friends, when it comes to the people who you and I are close to, naturally there is an expectation. We expect good from the people around us. We expect good from our family members, from our friends, the people who are close to us. When it comes to the Imam as well, this is the case. It's no different. The Imam doesn't expect that atheist living there or that unbeliever to be waiting for him eagerly. The Imam doesn't have this expectation. Of course, that person doesn't even believe in the existence of God, let alone the existence of the Imams and for him to be waiting for the Imam to come. But my dear brothers and sisters, the Imam does have this expectation from you and I. You and I who claim to be his followers, who claim to be his muntadir, who claim to be waiting for his arrival, the Imam has this expectation from us. The Imam expects us to be the best version of ourselves, especially as a youth. As a youth, the Imam really expects better from us. Like we said, in our actions, in our words, how we treat people. Every time that I sin, I break the heart of my Imam. This is something that we know these things, but unfortunately many times we don't have tawajjuh and attention to this. Every single time that I look at that na mahram, or I look at that video, or I speak rudely to my parents, when I swear, when I say bad things, when vulgar words come out of my mouth, the Imam is disappointed, the Imam is upset, we're breaking the heart of the Imam. Sometimes weeks go by, months go by, and I haven't remembered my Imam. A person who truly claims to be the muntadir of the Imam, who's waiting for his Imam, cannot live like this. Unfortunately, many of us are in this boat. Weeks go by, months, years even at times. Yes, we remember the Imam whenever it suits us. But truly a person who is actively waiting for the Imam, every moment of his life, he has in his mind, where is my Imam? We recite Dua Nutbah. Today was the day of Friday. When you look at Dua Nutbah, the lines are painful. Azizun alayya. It's difficult on me, O Imam. It's painful for me that I look around and I see people, but I do not see you. That these eyes of mine see people, hear the voices of the people around me, but oh my Imam, the one who I want to hear the most, the one who I want to see the most, I do not see. So a true muntadir lives according to how the Imam wants him to live. His life is aligned with how the Imam wants him to live. This is our first part of our discussion, where we wanted to look at what the meaning of Intidarul Faraj is. what it means to be waiting for the Imam. And we said that it doesn't mean passive waiting, it means an active type of waiting. The second part of discussion that we want to look at, inshallah, is this idea of Mahdawiyya. Where did it begin? Where did it start from? Where does it come from? And the Akhirul Zaman, what does it look like? So this is the second part, inshallah. This idea of Mahdawiyya, of the concept of Imam Mahdi, is a concept that has existed right from the Prophet's time. Right? It's not something that maybe towards the end of the last few Imams this idea started coming up and Imam started preparing the people for the coming of the 12th Imam. This is something that when you look at the Prophet's time as well, it existed. In fact, beyond this, every Abrahamic religion, be it Judaism, be it Christianity, all the religions that believe in one God, the Abrahamic religions, believe in the coming of a Savior, believe in the coming of the Mahdi. Within Islam as well, every single person believes in the coming of the Mahdi. Yes, there's differences amongst them and us as to whether or not he's been born, for example. Some people believe that he's not born. The Shia, of course, we believe that the Imam is alive and amongst and within us. But even someone like Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, the founder of Wahhabism, even he believes in the presence and the existence of Imam Mahdi. So this idea of the Imam is something that we see has existed from a very long time ago. It's not something that's a new thing that's just come about. In fact, like I said, all of the Ma'asumeen have spoken about our Imam who's alive and within us and amongst us. For example, once the Holy Prophet is sitting with his companions, and whilst he's sitting with them, he says, Aina ikhwani? Where are my brothers? At this point, the companions, they look around and they say, Oh Prophet, we're right here, we're in front of you. We're right here. Prophet says that no. Bal antum ashabi, you are my companions. They say that, Oh Prophet, nahnu kunna ma'aka bi Badrin wa Uhud. We were with you in Badr and Uhud. Who are these brothers that you speak of? Prophet says that you are my companions, you're good people, but my brothers are some other group. My brothers are the people who will live in the end times, the Akhirul Zaman. They say, why, O Prophet? What's so special about them? The Prophet says that you see me, you have seen my miracles, you have witnessed my existence and my presence in front of you with your eyes. The people in the Akhirul Zaman will have not seen their Imam, they will not have witnessed me, yet they will believe in him. And this is a point of hope for you and I, that the Prophet is calling us ikhwani, his brothers. It's not a small title. The Prophet is calling you and I his brothers. But like we said, we're only his brothers if we're acting in the path of the Ahlul Bayt and acting as to what our Imam wants us to be. Like if you think about it, how many of us over here have heard a hadith directly from an Imam or from the Prophet? None of us, right? None of us can claim over here. Maybe, inshallah, there's some of you who might have seen the Imam and had the tasharruf, but at least for myself, I haven't met the Imam. But yet, you and I, we believe in the Imam and we act upon it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the case that every single year we meet up together, wear the black clothes, come into the azah of Abu Abdullah, cry tears for him, for an Imam that we haven't even seen. We act upon the teachings of Islam. We haven't even heard the hadith directly. We've looked at Biharul Anwar, we've seen Al-Kafi, we've seen the hadith from there. Our Maraja have told us, and here we are. This is a value that you and I need to cherish. The Prophet is saying, like I said, that you and I are his brothers. Why? Because we believe in our Imam and we act upon his teachings without even having seen him. So like I said, this idea of Mahdawiyya, the idea of the 12th Imam, is an idea and a concept that's existed for a long time. All of the Imams have spoken about it. The 6th Imam, for example, he mentions that I wish that I was there in the time of the Hujjah and I could be at his service. This is not a small statement. Imagine the sixth Imam is saying this about our Imam. Somebody that's not even born at his time yet, somebody who is from his loins. Yet this is the respect and the importance that our Imam holds in the eyes of the Ahlul Bayt. Or for example, you find that the eighth Imam, when the name of the 12th Imam comes, he stands up and holds his head out of respect, something that you and I do. These are things that the Imams used to give importance to. Again, highlighting the importance of the Imam that exists between us and within us. But these times, the Akhirul Zaman, are a very difficult time. When we look at the hadith, for example, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajah. When he's speaking about the end times, he cries. There's a 7-page hadith where the Imam is just describing the end of times. And he says how the end times will be. How, for example, halal and haram will be mixed up. That which is halal will be seen as haram. That which is haram will be seen as halal. Children will be disrespectful of their parents. Na-mahram relationships will become normal. Illicit relationships. Amr and nahy and munkar will be left aside. People won't be doing amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. 7 pages where the Imam describes the end of times. Again, highlighting this, that this time that you and I live in are difficult times. If a person isn't careful of his iman, you've all heard of this hadith, that in the end times people will leave in the morning with their iman, come back at home in the evening and the iman is gone. It'll be as difficult as holding coal in your hands. These aren't just words, these are realities that we see today. So we need to be careful about these things. Lots of people within this time will fall. Lots of people will break, their iman will shake and they'll fall. These are times that we're recommended to make dua. For example, the famous dua that we recite, Ya Allahu, Ya Rahmanu, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, Thabbit Qulubana ala Dini. This is a dua that we're taught to recite often. That, oh Allah, preserve my iman. Let me be firm in my iman and not shake. Or for example, the dua that we recite in Qunut, Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana. Oh Allah, don't let my heart disobey you and turn away from you after you've guided me. These are du'as that you and I need to be reciting often, because these are difficult times, these Akhir Zaman. So we've spoken about Intidharul Faraj. We've mentioned how these end times are going to be. But we don't want to leave the discussion on a gloomy and very depressing point. What is it that you and I can do to prepare actively for our Imam? Yesterday we mentioned 2 points. Today, inshallah, we want to discuss this properly from one hadith of Amirul Mu'mineen, where he discusses the relationship that a person should have with his Imam. And inshallah, once we analyze this hadith, we'll look at 5 points that you and I can do actively within this time to make sure that we're preparing for our Imam and we're on this path. So the Imam says, أَسْعَدُ النَّاسِ مَنْ عَرَفَ فَضْلَنَا. Number 1, the first thing that you and I can do. The Imam says that the best of people, the most successful of people, the best of people is the one who does what? مَنْ عَرَفَ فَضْلَنَا. This is Amirul Mu'mineen saying that the best of people is the one who knows our fadl, who knows our value. In other words, has the ma'rifat of his Imam. This is the first thing that you and I need to be doing. That we need to have the ma'rifat of our Imam. We need to be reading up more about the Imam. Pick up books, try and understand. What is the reason for the ghaibat of my Imam? Why is the Imam not here with me? What can I do to prepare for my Imam? There's a difference between ma'rifat and ilm. Ilm is knowing things. For example, I know the date of birth of my Imam. I know the name of the mother of my Imam. These are good things. But you and I need to have the ma'rifat of our Imam. This is a deeper level. An understanding of my Imam. Like I said, what is it that the Imam wants from me? And this can only come from educating ourselves, from reading more books, from understanding, speaking to the ulama, attending the majalis like you do, alhamdulillah. So the first thing that the Imam is teaching us is to have ma'rifat of the Imam. The ulama say that when we look at our Imam, sometimes we get fooled into thinking that because the Imam is in ghaibah, the Imam isn't amongst us, there's not much that we can do. Whereas the reality is that the Imam is not covered from us. It is us who have covered ourselves. You and I have put that veil between us and the Imam. Otherwise, the Imam is amongst us. The Imam is not only just amongst us, but there are ways that you and I can benefit from our Imam. We can do tawassul to our Imam. The Imam is the connecting point between us and Allah, right? When I sin, for example, like we said, this upsets the Imam. Our nami a'mal, our actions, our deeds come to the Imam. The Imam sees our actions. So the Imam is not a person who is behind the parda of ghaibah and has no connection with you and I. The Imam is amongst us. It's us who have created this veil with the Imam. When you look at the risk that you and I attain, we know that this risk, there are angels, certain angels that bring risk. Mikael, for example, is tasked with bringing risk. But we can't see this angel. Yet, you don't deny that this risk is coming from Allah. Just because you can't see anything doesn't mean you can't create a connection with that. The Imam as well is hayy, he's alive and within us, amongst us, and not something or someone that we put aside. We need to be able to create that connection with our Imam. One nice sentence is that we don't wait for the huzur of the Imam. We're waiting for the dhuhur of the Imam. There's a difference between this. When a person is waiting for the huzur of the Imam, the presence of the Imam, he says that until the Imam isn't present with me, I'm not going to do anything about it. But when a person is doing intidarul faraj and waiting for the dhuhur of the Imam, then in his action, in his life, day to day, he's acting according to what the Imam wants him to do. So this is point number one. Number two, the Imam tells us, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, so the first thing he said was, As'adun nas man arafa fadlana. You and I need to be ma'rifat of our Imam. Number two, wa akhlasa hubbana. A person who wants to have a connection with his Imam needs to show love to their Imam. Now you may ask that our Imam isn't here, so how do I show my love to my Imam? There's different ways. Everybody can think in their own capacity. I have a child, for example, I name my child Mahdi. This is one way of showing love to the Imam. Giving sadaqah on Friday for the protection of the Imam, this is another way that I show love to the Imam. On the 15th of Sha'ban, I give gifts to my children and I tell them that this is for the love of the Imam, this is a way to show love to the Imam. A companion once comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, companion by the name of Harith bin Abdullah Hamadani. This person was very close to the Imam and loved the Imam a lot. In fact, he was one of the governors of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and there's a letter in Nahj al-Balagha as well addressed to him. So this person, Harith, it just so happens that that morning he's gone and he's already seen the Imam, he's visited the Imam. But in the afternoon, in the middle of the afternoon, the Imam hears a knock on his door. As he opens his door, he's surprised to see it's Harith. He says, Harith, I just met you in the morning, what's the matter? Harith says that, oh Imam, I've come here from my hubb for you. I couldn't stay away from you, I wanted to see you again. And therefore I've come here to see you and visit you, Imam. This is the connection that the companions had with their Imam. That he comes, he's just seen the Imam in the morning, once again in the afternoon, his heart can't bear that distance. That you and I are distanced from our Imam for such a long time. And many times we don't even care about this. So he tells the Imam that I've come here for my hubb. Subhanallah, Imam looks at him and he says to him that, oh Harith, if it's true, if you're right in what you're saying, that you love us, then know and understand that anybody who loves us, we will give back to them in three places. One is that at the time of his death, he will see us, we'll be there to help him out. Two is in the Sirat, will be there to help the person. And 3 is in the Hawd of Kawthar, will be there with the person. A person who has this connection with his Imam, the Imam gives back. So the second thing that the Imam is saying is that أخلص حبنا, a person shows love to the Imam. And when you and I do things for Imam, the Imam isn't madhyun of you and I. The Imam will never be at a place where he's indebted to us. This is a reality. Any small gesture of kindness that we do towards Imam and dedicate it to our Imam, the Imam isn't going to leave it in a way where the balance is not sorted. The Imam will give back. You recite a tasbih of salawat in love of the Imam. Don't have shak, have yaqeen that the Imam will give back to you. A small action like this, a gift that we can dedicate to our Imam, the Imam gives back to us. Because the family of the Ahlul Bayt will never be madhyun of anyone. They'll never remain indebted to anyone. They'll give back, and they'll give back much more than you'd expect. So this is the second way that you and I can form this connection with our Imam. That will show our love to the Imam. The third thing that Amirul Mu'mineen says in this hadith, he says, وَتَقَرَّبَ إِلَى اللَّهِ بِنَا. A person who wants to have this connection with his Imam seeks the closeness of Allah through us. In other words, does tawassul. Somebody is sick in my family. Yes, I go to doctors and I hope and I pray inshallah that the doctors are able to cure him. But how much does it hurt to do a dua over there, to do a tawassul, to pray to my Imam that, oh my Imam, cure this person. Oh Allah, for the sake of the Imam, cure this person. And we've all seen miracles that occur. That when through the hub and the tawassul of the Ahlul Bayt, how people have been cured. So this is the third thing that the Imam mentions. The fourth thing he says is, وَعَمِلَ بِمَا إِلَيْهِ نَدَبْنَا. Those things that we want them to do, they act upon them. Person who wants to have a connection with his Imam, the Imam is teaching us that this person does those things that we want him to do. Again, we mentioned this, but reminders are not bad. When I claim to be an ashik of the Imam, a lover of the Imam, and then in my namaz, for example, I'm careless. In my other wajibat, I'm careless. How does this make sense? How can I claim to be a lover of my Imam and yet those things that the Imam wants me to do, I do not do? We've heard of this hadith from Imam Sadiq where in his final moments, he tells his wife, gather my family around. And when the family is gathered, he says that that person who takes salat, that person who takes namaz lightly will never attain our shafa'ah. You know, when someone is passing away and they're giving their wasiyah, it's the most important things that he can say in that moment. The Imam, in the final moments, the most important advice that he's leaving for you and I is that a person who takes his salah lightly will never attain our shafa'ah. We know these things, but when it comes to action, sometimes we lack. Sometimes you look in social media and you see that people spread these doubts. They come and they say that, what harm does it have for a lady to have a few strands of hair showing, or her hijab not to be very proper? As long as her dil is pak, as long as she's a proper person, she's a good person, then Allah doesn't need these things. Allah doesn't need you to be praying in these things. As long as your heart is pure, then you're sorted. Not realizing that this doesn't make sense. When Allah Himself wants us to do these things, then you can't turn around and say that these wajibat and muharramat aren't important so long as I have a pure heart. So the fourth thing that the Imam is telling us is amila bima ilayhi nadabna. Act on those things that we want you to act upon. You want to prepare yourself for your Imam, you want to be a true muntadir of the duhur of your Imam, then act upon those things that the Imam wants you to act upon. And finally, the last thing he mentions is وَانْتَهَا عَمَّا عَنْهُ نَهَيْنَا. He stays away from those things that we do not want him to be doing. Those things that are prohibited, those things that the Imams do not want us to be, those places that the Imams don't want us to be seen at, those actions, those words that we say sometimes that the Imam isn't proud of. A person who wants to have this connection with his Imam, who wants to be a muntadir of his Imam, make sure that in these things he's careful as well. The Imam, my dear brothers and sisters, is close to us. He's close to us. Like I mentioned, it's us who have created this veil and this barrier between us and our Imam. Otherwise, the Imam is with us. And a Shia is a person who doesn't lose hope because he knows that the Imam is with him. It's like, one of the ulama was saying, it's like, for example, when you have a father, a loving father among his children. The children, so long as the father is there, they know that the father is going to be there to support them. Then they know that the father will be there and they don't have any worries because their father has their back. Tomorrow, if anything is going to happen, their father is going to be there to protect them. But when the father goes, that's when the children realize and they worry and they start to panic because now they don't have that support anymore. But you and I have somebody amongst us, within us, who is even more loving than our own fathers. The hadith tell us that the Imam is more loving to us than our own fathers and our mothers. A Shia never loses hope because of this. Let me share with you one incident, inshallah, and then we'll move into Masail. One of the Maraja in the past, a big mujtahid of his time, in fact, he was a marja before Ayatollah Burjardi. This marja, by the name of Ayatollah Sayyid Abul Hasan Isfahani, he says that, he writes this himself in his memoirs, that when I was young, about 10 years old, I was studying in a village nearby Isfahan. And I was studying in the Hawza and, getting my Islamic knowledge. A time comes when I come to my father and I say to him that, my dear father, allow me to go to Isfahan where there's a bigger Hawza, where I'll be able to benefit more over there. So his father, out of the love for his son is young, he's only 10, he says that, please, you don't go. It's going to be difficult for you. It's not going to be easy for you over there. You'll be all alone, there'll be no one there. It's going to be difficult for you. You're young, you stay here. He says, I insisted and I insisted. I said, my dear father, please, I've reached a stage of my studies now where I want to benefit more. Allow me to go to Isfahan. His father refuses. He said, I cried and I cried and I kissed his hands and I begged him. At the end, his father allows him and he permits him. After all of this back and front, his father finally allows him and he says, you go. This person, this marja, he mentions that when he reaches Isfahan, he gets a room in the Hawza for himself, a small room, and he continues his studies. It so happens that a time comes when now it's winter time and it's freezing cold, and it just so happens that he doesn't have any money with him. He's run out of money and he doesn't have anything with him. So much so that in the freezing cold, at that time when it used to snow, the snow used to pile up. It's so cold that inside his room he doesn't have any heating. He doesn't even have enough money to buy a candle to keep himself warm with, let alone food and his other basic needs. So he says, this was a very difficult time for me. A very, very difficult time. I don't have anything. It's cold, it's freezing. And just then his father arrives from the village, comes to Isfahan to visit him. Now his father arrives, it's the middle of the night, it's freezing cold. He enters his room and he's surprised, he's shocked to find that there's no light, there's no candle, there's no heat all around, it's freezing inside this room. And he sees that the material position of his son is at a very difficult place at this point. So he turns to his son and he starts lamenting him, he starts getting angry at him and scolding him. That, look, I told you, I'd mentioned to you that this is what's going to happen. That you leave and this is how it's going to be. It's going to be difficult for you. You weren't listening. Now you pack up right now. Let's go back. So this marja, he says that at this moment I started crying. I started crying because everything I wanted, I'd finally reached it. And now this is the end. I need to go back. He says at that moment I made a dua in my heart. I said, Ya Sahib al-Zaman, you help me. Help me so that my father knows that there is help. A moment passes by when, after a while, the guard, the person who was the guard of the Hawza, was standing by the gate. He comes upstairs to his room and he knocks on his door and he says to you that you have a visitor, you have a guest who's come. He's surprised because in Isfahan he doesn't know anyone. He goes downstairs and he sees there's a man over there. And the man tells him that, Sayyid Abul Qasim is fine. You have a candle inside your room somewhere. Take out that candle. You're not aware of it. It's somewhere hidden. You take that candle out and light it up. And take this money, and with this money, go and buy some food and serve it to your guest. And buy some coal so you can heat up the room. So that they shouldn't say that you do not have anyone with you. He says that that moment I took the money and I went upstairs. My father said, "Who was it?" He says there was a person. He came and he said, "There's a candle over here." And sure enough, they found the candle, they lit it up. And he said that he's given me a little bit of money and he said that I should buy some food and warm up the house with coal so that they shouldn't say that we don't have anyone. His father at that moment sits down on his knees and he starts to cry and cry and cry. And he says that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I doubted you. You are on the right path. And this person who's come to help you, do you know who he is? And the son says that, no, I don't know. The father mentions to him this. This is just a reminder for us, a small reminder for us, that our Imam is alive. He's present amongst us and within us. It is us who have created this veil and this curtain between us and our Imam, such that we aren't able to benefit from him directly. But inshallah, if we practice the things that the Imam wants us to do and begin to create this connection with our Imam, then we're able to benefit from him. But tonight is a night when we remember a young youth who was connected to his Imam in a way that you would be surprised when you look at it. Let us send our salams to our Imam on this night, inshallah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah wa ala al-arwah allati halat bifina. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. On the day of Ashur, a time comes when all of the companions have gone. Only the Banu Hashim are left alone with their Imam. They come together, they bid farewell to one another. They bid farewell to the women and the children in the tents. At this moment, Ali al-Akbar stands up and comes to his father to ask for permission to go out and fight. فاستأذن أباه في القتال فأذن له. The Imam grants him permission. But as he's heading out, as Ali al-Akbar is riding out, ثم نظر إليه, the Imam looks at him, نظر آيس منه ورخى عينه وبكى. The Imam looks at him in a very sad manner and begins to cry as he looks at Ali al-Akbar riding out. ثم قال, then the Imam says, Allahumma shahad faqad baraza ilayhim. Oh Allah, you bear witness that I've sent out towards them غلام أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا برسولك. Oh Allah, you bear witness that was sent out towards the person who resembles the Prophet the most when it came to his appearance and his character and his speech. What a beautiful servant of Allah Aliyun al-Akbar was. The one who when we miss the Prophet, we'd look at him. Imagine this is the one that the Imam is sending out to fight. He goes out and he goes out, he recites rajas. He says to the enemies, Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali. If you do not know me, then know that I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Haydar. نحن بيت الله أولى بالنبي. We are the Ahlul Bayt, we are the closest ones to the Holy Prophet. أطعنكم بالرمح حتى ينثني. I will pierce you with my spear until it bends. أضربكم بالسيف أحمي عن أبي. I will strike you with my sword and I will defend my father. Ali al-Akbar goes out and he fights bravely, killing many of the enemies. A moment comes when he returns back to his father and he says, Oh my father, Al-Atash qad qatalani. The thirst is killing me. وَثِقْلُ الْحَدِيدِ قَدْ أَجْهَدَنِي. This armor is weighing heavy on me. فَهَلْ إِلَى شَرْبَةٍ مِّنَ الْمَاءِ. Is there a little bit of water that you can spare? I can imagine what Abu Abdullah must have felt in this moment. His son is asking him for a little bit of water. But oh Ali Akbar, there is no water in the tents. The children are thirsty. فَبَكَى الْحُسَيْنِ. Imam starts crying. He says to him, Ya bunayya, qatil qalila. Fight a little bit more, my dear son. فَمَا أَسْرَعَ مَا تَلْقَى جَدَّكَ مُحَمَّدًا صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ. Soon you will be met with your grandfather. فيسقيك بكأسه الأوفى شربة لا تظمع بعدها أبدا. Soon your grandfather will serve you from the water of heaven. Oh my dear son, fight a little bit more. I often think in this moment, Hazrat Abbas was still present as Ali Akbar comes to his father. Abul Fadl must have been standing next to Abu Abdullah, proud of his nephew. MashaAllah, Aliun al-Akbar, continue fighting, my dear nephew. You're doing so well. But Aliun al-Akbar must have felt in his heart, my chacha, my uncle, so long as you are there, I'm confident. I know that nothing is going to happen to my Mawla. Nothing is going to happen to my father. Nothing is going to happen to the women and children in the tents. But oh Ali al-Akbar, if only you knew what was to befall your father and your uncle. He goes out and he fights again. He fights bravely till a moment comes when a mal'oon says, May the gunah of the Arabs be upon me if I do not kill this youth and make his father mourn him. The mal'oon approaches Ali al-Akbar and he strikes him. Ali Akbar is struck. His head falls on the horse. He calls out, Ya Abata, عليك السلام هذا جدي يقرئك السلام. Oh my father, my final salams to you. This is my grandfather, just as you promised, giving salams to you as well. But what happens next is extremely difficult. Imagine Abu Abdullah is watching from a distance. The horse because Ali al-Akbar has fallen on him. The horse cannot see, and so the horse, instead of taking him back to the camps of Abu Abdullah, starts heading towards the camps of the enemies. As he reaches the camps of the enemies, فَحَمَلَهُ الْفَرَسِ إِلَى عَسْكَرِ عَدُوِّهِ, takes him to the camps of the enemies. What do the enemies do when they see the son of Hussein? فَقَطَّعُوا بِأَسْيَافِهِمْ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا. The enemies, they start striking Ali al-Akbar. They cut him into pieces. Hussein reaches Ali al-Akbar. In some reports we read that as he approaches Ali Akbar, he throws himself off his horse, he drags himself to his dear son with tears in his eyes. فمات فجاءه الحسين حتى وقف عليه ووضع خده على خده. He places his cheek on the cheek of Ali al-Akbar. He cries out, Waladi Ali, my son Ali, على الدنيا بعدك العفا, على الدنيا بعدك العفا. Oh Ali, what value does this dunya have after you? For Hussein, sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, sallallahu alayka ya Mazlum. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah to grant us the tawfiq to be amongst the real muntadhiran of our Imam. We pray to Allah to allow us to be present when our Imam arrives, to live a life that our Imam is proud of, and inshallah to die in the path of our Imam, the way that the Shuhada taught us. We pray to Allah to grant complete victory to all of the believers around the world in different places where they're oppressed. And finally, we pray to Allah to hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.